Streaming live. Yeah, I muted my microphone because we're streaming on Facebook, so no. I'm going to quick check over on Facebook to see whether her audio is coming through there. I don't believe it is.
Your audio.
Oh, I heard you.
How about that?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, and there you are too. Okay.
Thank
you for bearing with me during that. I'm not sure why. As you know, I just sent this, I just had this computer repaired because the kitties knocked over a glass of water and it got some wetness. So they had to wipe the hard drive, the whole thing. And then remember last week, I said I was just putting this computer up on my little plinth and it went suddenly black. And I was like, what the heck? And quickly moved over to the other computer. So then I had to take this back to the Genius store. And I was like, you guys, I just got this back from you. And now the display is all screwed up. And luckily I did not go in all guns blazing like, you all broke my computer, because the guy goes, did you say you have cats? I said, uh-huh. And he goes, yeah, let me just point this out to you. Up in the corner of my screen, little tiny titty kitty teeth marks on the corner of my display. They had broken the display with their little needly teeth. Fuzzy little bastards. So, okay. So I just had to send it out again and get it back again. So this is why this requires all this tech setup. But thank you for being patient with me. Now let's do our breathing, shall we? Let's center into this present moment. Maybe wiggle your body back and forth in the chair just to be like, oh, that's right. This is not just a thing I have to do. This is a moment of transformation for me in my life. You ready? Let's inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this with me. So I wanted to share with you a little bit, I often have stuff I want to say to you guys. I have either questions that have been coming up repeatedly in other classes or on the Facebook page, or just things I'm hearing kind of in the world, patterns I'm seeing, things that piss me off. I have some topic I want to dive into with you all on this weekly call. And other times I don't, but I wake up in the morning and something's stuck in my brain or something comes to me. And then there are other times like this whole week and this morning where there's just nothing. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to say to these people on Thursday. And perhaps you have wondered to yourself, how does she come up with something every Thursday? For like years I've been doing this now. Um, and maybe you are even letting that thought keep you from doing something like this, right? Maybe you're thinking like, well, I would love to do a blog or a Facebook Live or whatever, but I don't know what I'd say. I don't know what I'd say. I'd run out of things to say. I don't have that much to say. And it's true, you know, in many ways you don't, neither do I. And you will hear me say the same things over and over again, partly because it's just my rap, but also because I know that every time you hear it a little differently, right? So I just wanted to walk you through what my system is when I don't particularly have anything to say. Hi, Carrie Ann. Hi, Julie. Hi, Lori. Great to see you. Hi, Laura, Edith, Christian. So glad you're here. Hi, Autumn. So, and as someone who lives with anxiety, this may ring a bell with you. That thought of like, I don't know what I would say. I don't know what I'm going to say. I would love to meet that person, but I don't know what I'd say. I'd love to get interviewed, but I don't know what I'd say. Right. That means the answer isn't up here. Right. We like to think that, you know, our brain can solve every problem in advance, and that if we can't solve the problem in advance, we better not even truck with it. Right. So, but that's not true. It just means that the answer is not up here because you've never done it before, probably. And I used to notice this a lot when I was working full-time as an actor. You know, prepping for auditions is challenging and exhausting, and there's a lot you don't know. You know, sometimes you don't get the correct answer, the correct information from your agent. Sometimes you don't get very much material or any sides at all. Here's a fun fact about acting. The part of the script that has your lines on it is called the sides. So when you're auditioning for something and it's a big movie, but you only have one scene, you're just going to get your one scene or your two scenes. You're not going to get the whole script. And those little bits are called sides. Or you'll get there and the sides are wrong, or you've been told to wear green and they actually want to see you in pink. I mean, it happens all the time. And sometimes, like I said, you don't really get very much information at all. They just want to look at you. It's like, oh my God, well, what are they seeing? What am I going to say? How do I make an impression? Blah, blah. And, you know, I like to be prepared for all eventualities. When I was touring with Second City, Rachel Dratch, who has the same birthday as me, she and I used to say, she used to call me Sammy on the spot. Sammy on the spot, because we'd be on the road, we'd be, you know, touring, doing a show, you know, traveling in a van, doing a show somewhere. And she'd say, oh, does somebody have an extra pair of prop glasses? Does somebody have a running order? Does somebody have an extra sweater? Does somebody have, you know, this or that? I'd be like, I do. I've got a granola bar. I've got a pen. I've got it. So there she is, Sammy on the spot. So I really like to be prepared for everything. And I often joke, if you ever see me on the street, you'll see me with my enormous handbag. And I always joke around that if the earthquake hits, we'll be okay because we have my bag. Like a family of 4 can live for a week out of my bag. So all this is to say, I really like to be prepared, and it triggers my anxiety to feel unprepared. Maybe it does for you too. One of the things I learned to do when I was acting was on my way to the audition, and as I was prepping, I would say to myself, divine intelligence tells me all I need to know. Divine intelligence tells me all I need to know. I have all the information I need to have to get as far as I need to go. And when I get there, I will have more information. I can trust that my ability to suss out what's happening and, you know, the world's ability to deliver information to me, I will figure out whatever there is to figure out, if there is anything, in fact, to figure out. So that may be helpful to you. Divine intelligence tells me all I need to know, right? Because, and here's the point of the whole story, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. I'm going to say it one more time. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. So when you think, oh, my friend, you know, lost her father, I want to call her, but I don't know what I'd say. You don't have to say the perfect thing. You just have to be present. You just have to show up and say, I love you. You have to be present and listen. All the early first responders, everyone who works in trauma, all the therapists will all tell you that when someone is in distress, they don't need your help. They just need you to be present for them. They just need you to be an enlightened witness, right? Somebody to just be present, hold space and say, I see you, I love you, I hear you, right? So you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. Luke is a professor of music theory at Cal State Long Beach. And one of his classes, he has one student who always shows up early. I think her name is Mia. And I hear him teaching because he's right in the other room. And every time this class happens, the first thing I hear him say is, oh, hello, Mia, nice to see you. Here you are early as always. And she's 2 minutes early. I mean, she's not like 15 minutes early. She's 2 minutes early. And they were talking, and so they have a little chit chat before everybody else comes, or as everybody else arrives in the Zoom. And I heard him saying to her the other day, he said, Mia, if you want to be a professional musician, the one thing you need to know is how to show up and how to show up early. If you're 10 minutes early, you're late. If you're on time, you're late. 15 minutes early is probably pretty good for a gig, maybe half an hour. Because you need to show up and you need to know how to play. You need to be able to play, you need to be able to sight read whatever it is they're giving you. And it's amazing how many people in the creative arts and all over the world, they take themselves out of the game just by not showing up. I had a client who did that one time. She was just starting her acting career. She missed a call for an audition, which happens. I mean, it was back in the days of pagers, and she missed it. She felt like that disqualified her from all acting forever. And I was like, dude, this is LA. People miss auditions all the time. Just get back, apologize and get back in the ring, get back in the car, go see them today. Like, I don't know, send them an apology, bake some cookies if you really feel like bad about it. But I'm telling you, no one noticed and no one cared. No, she said. Mm-mm. She could not forgive herself. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to show up to the auditions, you are 100% not going to get cast. Right? I had a client one time who was a sculptor, and she had all these finished pieces in her basement. And I was like, why are you holding these pieces hostage? Why have you kidnapped these pieces? They're down there. They can't breathe. No one can see them. Look at the sunshine. And she's like, so what? I'm just supposed to go to the gallery? And I'm like, the one that said they were interested in you? Yes. So she did. And sure enough, the gallery owner, who'd been a little like poo-poo before, the minute she clapped eyes on her work, was like, hi, how are you? Can you sign this? Can I get these in here now, please? Can we put a price tag 10 times what you thought you would charge for them on that? Because she showed up, not knowing what would happen, not knowing how well received she would be. She did not let her anxiety about that stop her from being present. All that life requires of you is your presence. The purpose of your life is your presence. The purpose of life is to experience life. The purpose of your life is to experience your life in whatever way that is, in whatever phase it is you are. This is why, I just read an article the other day, maybe you saw it too, about somebody, I think in the UK, with locked-in syndrome, right? With ALS, people lose control of all their muscles, including finally their eye movement. For a long time, they can communicate just with eye movement, but eventually that goes too. And they figured out how to put a brain implant in that when the person thought something, it would trigger a sound. And so they could answer yes and no to things, and they could select letters and spell out things. 1 letter per minute. But they found that this person who has been 100% locked in, they can see and hear and experience everything. They cannot communicate in any way. But they were there. He asked for goulash and wished that he could go to a barbecue with his family the next day. And his life is as full as yours or mine. He is experiencing his life. He is present for his life. Right? So everybody's life is as full and rich for them as your life is for you. And Yeah, the purpose of your life is to experience your life. So when you don't know what to do, and when your anxiety is telling you that that means you should do nothing, you can go, aha, that's a lie. You can paint that thought bright pink, put a bunch of sparklers and balloons on it, maybe a little sign that says, oh, by the way, this thought is an express elevator to hell. Because that whole, I don't know what I'd wear, I don't know what I'd say, I don't know who I'd talk to, I don't know what they'll think of me, that is keeping you from experiencing your life. But the willingness to just show up and say, okay, I'm going to see what's happening. And I'll tell you, you may think like that will lead to something unprofessional, but it doesn't. I was thinking about the time I was helping to run a theater company in Los Angeles, and I was facilitating the meeting of the directors, the board essentially. And we were having a lot of problems, and I didn't really know where to start, and there was a lot of contention. And I couldn't think of like how to get into it, or how to have the right conversation with them that would move us forward. And so finally, I just was like, well, if I don't know, I don't know. Divine intelligence will tell me all I need to know. So I showed up at the meeting. We did a little breathing. I'll have to start with that. And in the moment, the question came to me. I said, are we all agreed that this theater company should continue as a theater company? Like, let's back up from the decision about should we do this show or that show, or should we have this fundraiser or that fundraiser? Like, do we even want to keep doing this at all? Because the purpose of, we were running by consensus. The purpose of consensus is what is the broadest possible thing that everyone can agree upon. I'm like, well, let's see if we can agree that we should even be here. And in fact, there were some people who were having some serious doubts, and it led to a very fruitful conversation that really kind of changed the trajectory of the theater. It still exists. They're doing incredible work. I'm still friends with them. I love them. But if I'd showed up with a big matrix and a worksheet and a big idea about where we should be going, that conversation would never have happened. But I was willing to just show up and say, I don't know. I don't know. And I want to see what the information is here in the room. I want to see what the information is coming to me from you all. I want to be present for it. Kamala is saying, I so needed to hear this today. Lori says, wow. Yeah, Veronica's saying, I don't know how to do, this tech thing or that tech thing. I don't know how to podcast. I don't know how to buy a Facebook ad. Yeah, right. So be present for it. Find out. Someone can teach you. You can figure it out. This idea that you have to know in advance is killing you and keeping your work locked up in the basement, right? Shirley says express elevator to hell, LOL, right? What's your express elevator to hell? I'm too old. I can't do this. No one wants this. Who do I think I am? I tried that already. It didn't work before. Yep, that'll take you right there. Boom. And then you keep getting the same results you've been getting because you're following the same mental patterns you've been following. But if you drop that old story, say, okay, that was then, this is now. How do I be present for this moment? And even, professionally, I one time was invited to an event where two people, basically three really, were presenting on a topic, and they charged $700 a ticket. It was like a 3-hour thing. And I was invited. I did not have to pay $700. I was invited as a guest. And here's what they did. They stood up in front with everybody and said, oh, yay, everybody, we're so glad you're here. So tell us what are your questions? And then they wrote down everybody's questions. Somebody scribed everybody's questions. And then they spent the next 2 hours and 45 minutes answering those questions. That was it. That was the $700 workshop. And I did not hear anybody grumble about like, oh, that wasn't worth the money. Right. When you may have heard me tell the story about when Start Right Where You Are got released, I was nervous about my podcast interviews because I felt like I didn't have my pattern down. Like if Get It Done, I'd been doing forever. I was like, oh yeah, I know that one, I know these stories. Start Right Where You Are, not so much. so I was nervous, and then finally I was working with the shadow coach. So this is it, you guys, get coached, find a mentor, find a coach, pay somebody to fuck your shit up because you can't do it for yourself all the time. And when I say fuck your shit up, I mean that in the nicest possible way. So we're working on this thing, and finally I said in the middle of this process with my coach, I said, oh my gosh, oh, thank you. It's not my book. And he goes, what? I said, it's not my book. And he says, what does that mean? I said, I don't know, but I feel like I just took off a 10,000 pound suit of armor. Like, it's not my book. And as we worked on this idea more, I realized it's like, right, the book comes through me. It's me expressed out into the world, but it's not mine anymore. It belongs to the world. People are going to have their own experience of this book, and it doesn't have anything to do with me. And I assume it's how people with children feel. Like, if your child goes out and does something amazing, I mean, you're proud and you had something to do with it, but it's not your achievement, it's your child's, right? So whatever the book achieves, it's the book's, it's not mine. It's not my book. It's the world's book. And it really freed me up. And then I just resolved, I was like, for every interview I had, it's like, oh, right, it's just my job to just be present for this interview, to answer these questions as fully and deeply and respectfully as I can. That's my job, to be present. And then we were still running I had a high-end program for creative entrepreneurs for a long time. And we were doing a 3-day retreat. We would do these live events for this group, and down at the Rancho Bernardo Inn in Orange County, which is a glorious place to have an event. So nice. And Leonore and I, some of you may remember Leonore, who used to be on my team. She was Veronica before Veronica was Veronica. Leonore and I were driving down there, and I was like, gosh, I've got all these different worksheets and different things I think I want to do with them, but I haven't really, got a hold of what the theme is or exactly how to structure it. And, this is the night before we're supposed to start. And Leonore says, well, Sam, maybe it's not your workshop. And I was like, oh, it's not my workshop. Right. So the next morning we got everybody into the room, and I led them through a little visualization exercise, and then had them 10x their vision. Right. So now all of a sudden they've got this big vision for their lives, for their business. And I said, so now that you have this big vision, what are your questions? They asked all the questions. I clumped them up and then answered them. And then the second day we did the worksheets and stuff that I had sort of planned, but so much better for them to tell me exactly what it is they needed to be talking about and learning and discussing and exploring, rather than me, again, to show up with my big fat fucking idea about what I think they should be learning, right? Shirley says, I literally have 2 boxes of photo prints captive in my basement. Amy says, I have lots of hand knit shawls, hats, mittens, headbands held captive in my living room. Yeah. Crimes against art, people. Crimes against art. Release them, sell them, give them away. I don't care, but they're not. You've had your experience of them. Your job was to create it. Your job was to create it. Your job is not to judge it. Your job is not to, determine its future. Your job is to create it and then let the world experience it in whatever way feels good to you. I mean, I always want to see you profiting from it. I think you should charge $1 trillion. Crimes against art. Wow, I love that. I'm done being a fugitive, says Carrie. Yes, stop being a fugitive. Christine says, I can't believe you just said it's not my book. You just lifted something off of me too. Yeah, I was teaching Beautiful Writers Group the other week with a woman named Steph Jagger, who wrote a memoir called Unbound that is fan-fucking-tastic, about her skiing 4 million downward miles in a year all around the world. It's an amazing journey of herself and of skiing. And now she's got a new memoir that's just about to come out in about a month called Everything There Is to Remember, or something like that, about a journey she took with her mom, a camping trip through the Rockies with her mom, who had just been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. So I assume that's going to be amazing too. But so anyway, Steph and I were talking, and you know, the community in Beautiful Writers Group was asking questions, and they asked us a question about about handling about I guess it was about getting an agent. And Steph said, and I couldn't believe it because I never heard anybody else say this other than me. She said, she goes, the whole time I was applying to agents, she said, I was a first-time writer. I had no social media platform. In fact, my agent made me take my social media numbers out of my book proposal because they were so pathetic. She's like, let's just leave these off. And she said, the thing I just kept saying to myself is, this book has everything to do with me. This book has nothing to do with me. This book has everything to do with me. This book has nothing to do with me. Right? She was saying the exact same thing. It has everything to do with me because it is an expression of myself, my experience, my words, and it has nothing to do with me because it is meant to go out into the world and be experienced by others, right? So just to recap, when you are having, Julie says, especially with start right where you are, we're all in different starting places. Exactly. So when you are having this anxiety of like, well, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know what I'd say. I don't know where to go. I don't know. Right. Because sometimes you ask the question, oh, what would I say? And the answer is up there, right? Or what would I wear? And the answer is up there. Great. You have the answer in your head. That's terrific. Probably means you've done it before. But if you have the question and nothing, and there's nothing, rather than spinning off into anxiety and then keeping yourself prisoner, right? Keeping yourself prisoner in the basement, much less your work. Well, what could I be present for? What could I show up for? If divine intelligence is going to tell me all I need to know, where do I need to go? Carrie Ann put out a terrific email the other day about really following her intuition on a date with her sweetheart, and ended up having all these conversations about her new fashion design line and all this stuff that she just was kind of rolling the dice on and kind of following her nose, really, literally. And what an incredible journey. She didn't say to herself, oh, I don't belong. This isn't my place. We had these other plans. That was more important. No, she just allowed herself to go where divine intelligence was leading her to go, right? Robin Clare says, this hits accurately. I need to let people experience my book and not tell them what to experience. I can only share what I experienced while writing. Well, that's exactly it. I was really, when Kind of Done came out, I realized I was really, I really wanted to stand there at every table in every bookstore and talk to everyone and make sure it was really the right thing for them, because I didn't want them to buy the book if it wasn't going to help them. Not my job, right? People are smart. I can trust them to have their own experience. And believe me, some people did not care for it. It was my favorite thing. My favorite thing was when I finally got a 1-star review on Amazon. It made me feel like a real writer, right? Julie says, look at Judge Jackson this week. I kept thinking she could hold her own because she's a woman who knows herself and her expertise, right? Exactly. She's willing to just be present. Dr. Elizabeth says, I want to put stuff out there, create it, and not need anything. Trusting the flow. Exactly. So this is my thought for you. The answer is in the present moment. The purpose of your life is to be present for your life. In whatever way, shape, or form that is. There have been plenty of times in the last couple of weeks where I have a big idea about what I want to do, and then that doesn't happen, or I can't. And I'm like, well, apparently I'm not in charge of this right now. I would love to be in charge of it, but I'm not. Right? And if you're dealing with a health issue, right, or a crisis caused by somebody else, you're not in charge of the whole thing. So what do? We surrender. It is not giving up. It's giving in. Staying soft. Staying present. Right? How to get stuff out in the world? I don't know, hon. However, whatever way you can. call people, email people, snail mail people, call the newspapers, send out a press release, buy a hot air balloon, host a regatta, have a street fair, buy t-shirts. I don't know. What way seems fun to you? What way seems available to you? There's no right way. There isn't a right way. There isn't a right way. There's just your way. There isn't a right way. There's just your way. There isn't a right way. There's just your way. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Veronica. Special thank you to the people in the Get It Done Lab. We're rocking it. We're rocking it. We're rocking it. All right, you ready? Let's inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for doing this with me.